Get cool stuff for what you were going to do anyway. Drink beer. With Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt, you can just snap a photo of your receipt and upload it to the website to rack up points for exclusive merch. Get points for every purchase, whether you're grabbing a pint on draft, a case for a party, or a tall boy at the stadium. Any size, any product, anywhere you buy Labatt. Buy beer, get gear. Sign up now at rewards.labattusa.com.
Alrighty, welcome into Newhouse After Noon. It's Drew Alba alongside Dan Papillo here until 4 p.m. Dan, we got a packed show with lots of Syracuse sports to talk about. We'll touch on men's basketball, women's basketball, as the hour progresses. But I think the most interesting thing right now is the men's lacrosse team who came into it, a top 3 team in the nation, moves up to number 1 after a big win over Maryland. And then a loss to Harvard. You were there. What happened?
I was there, and a lot of things definitely played a factor in that loss, one of which could be the weather, if you really want to go that avenue. A little under freezing at game time, snow on the ground, snow coming down, and you could tell Syracuse was struggling to pick up those ground balls. But overall, I would say, at the end of the day, Harvard just came out as a really team that wanted to come out there and beat the number 1 team. There were a lot of people at Jordan Field, over 2,000 people in attendance, and at the end of the day, they were the ones who got it done.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that this Syracuse team almost put the pedal off of the foot off of the pedal, I guess, for lack of a better term there. And Gary Gayton is not his presser, but his media, ops a couple days ago was talking about how in the pressure moments, Syracuse didn't get it done because the Orange had a lead late in the fourth quarter and kind of squandered it. I almost think an early season loss isn't necessarily the worst thing for this team.
No, I don't disagree with you, and I think it comes with a lot of adversity, right? And it's something that Syracuse has faced a lot. And when you're going to be the number 1 team, you're going to have a lot of adversity on your plate. And we heard about it after the Maryland game. They talked about, what does the expectation look like now as number 1? And Michael Leo had said, we've been the chasers for so long, and now we're the ones that are being chased. So kind of getting that opportunity and being in that spotlight, you could tell that it was a number 1 team in the country. There was a lot more flair, a lot more energy, a lot more fire. Everybody was fired up over there at Cambridge. So I would say, at the end of the day, Syracuse kind of had that, you're number 1, you lose now. That adversity was there, so now it's time to kind of bounce back and get there.
Yeah, and turn the page, for lack of a better term. And the opportunity to do that presents itself against number 7 Princeton. It's going to be a tough one, right? This is the Tiger squad that lost against Penn State in week number 1. Not particularly close, and then all of a sudden you bounce back week 2, a big win over Maryland. This is a Tiger squad that last season took the Orange close in the quarterfinals, lost by just 1 goal, 19-18. Syracuse did ultimately take that one, but Dan, as far as a bounce back, get right type of game, this is not easy at all. Syracuse could very easily find themselves with back-to-back losses here.
Of course, and that's kind of what's going to happen when you have a 6-game road trip. There's so many opportunities for you to kind of falter, which is why I think Coach Gates scheduled these road trips. It's kind of having that opportunity to say, all right, this is our chance to come out there and really prove that we're the number 1 team in the nation. A lot of RPI, a lot of different – you scheduled a lot of really tough teams for this reason. So I think for Syracuse, playing a team like Princeton, it's an NCAA tournament rematch from last year. They played that insane thriller down on Long Island, a 19-18 win for the Orange. It's a big game, of course, and Princeton's going to be fired up just like Harvard was. So I think for Syracuse, the biggest thing that you need to do in this game is to come out firing. and really prove that, hey, we might have slipped up last week, but we're still a top dog.
Yeah, and this is a Princeton team that lost against Penn State, and a big reason why the Tigers were down 7-1 at the end of that first quarter. So that was, something that Princeton just couldn't come back from. Syracuse can bury Princeton right away. I think there's a really good chance the Orange cruise into Princeton and come out with a victory. Now, if they kind of let the Tigers hang around, it's the third, the fourth quarter, and you kind of let head coach Matt Madelon, kind of work through things. He's a veteran leader, and he can kind of dissect the Syracuse offense. Now, there could be some problems, right? So I think this first couple of quarters is going to be huge to kind of see, can Princeton hang with Syracuse? I have no doubt in my mind Syracuse can hang with Princeton. I'm just worried from a Syracuse perspective that you kind of let the Tigers hang around, and some of the talent that the Princeton Tigers has towards the third and the fourth quarter kind of starts to come out. Because this is an Orange team, Dan, that I think purely talent-wise can stack up or is more talented than every team in the nation. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I think at the end of the day, though, if you look at Syracuse's team, right, there's a lot of different places that you can point the finger. There's a lot of talk about this infamous class of 2022 class. Guys like Spallina, Leo, Thompson, Roa, they're all here on their last dance sort of thing. It's kind of really seeing them gel as a unit, and it kind of feels like they really did that against Maryland. But against Harvard, it didn't really seem that way because Joey Spallina was getting locked up by Yost DeKoning, the defender for Harvard. So when you have that kind of thing going on, other guys have to step up, and it really felt like Syracuse hit a bit of a stalemate. They went almost 6 minutes without scoring at one point, and that eventually ended up playing a factor in the loss.
You can't have that.
No. So I think if you're Syracuse, obviously, this is a different Princeton team, but what really worked in that national quarterfinal game, was the ball moving around and getting a lot of different goal scoring. So I think for Syracuse in this game, it's important to, not just rely on Joey Spallina. Joey Spallina wasn't awful against Harvard. He had 3 points.
Sure.
You wanted to have a little bit more than that, obviously, at this rate when he's your top dog. But I think Syracuse really just has to spread the wealth a little more.
Yeah, and you can point the finger what went wrong towards the end of that game. I don't think Spallina was necessarily the main issue. I don't think he added a ton, like you mentioned. A guy like Michael Leo, great game for himself. I believe it was, finished with 4 assists, was it? Or 4 total points. And last time out against Princeton had 3 goals in the quarterfinals. So Michael Leo, kind of the Robin to the Batman, you could say, of Joey Spallina. He could be the difference maker, especially when, listen, throughout the country, teams are going to put all their eggs in the Joey Spallina basket as far as, we have to stop Spallina. We're going to just mirror our best defender on Spallina the whole time, and rightfully so. But then who else can step up? Can the Michael Leos of the world? Can Luke Roa have a game? Heck, can the freshman Bo Kahn, come in and get a big goal for Syracuse? And it just felt like in the Harvard matchup, there were moments where there was these long stretches of nothingness when Spallina was kind of getting mirrored and locked up, like you said.
I think it also plays a big part of that is the ball movement. And like I kind of talked about a little bit, you don't want to make excuses, but the weather definitely played a factor. Syracuse hadn't played a game outside yet. You go to a snowy Cambridge where there's a bunch of people there. The snow's coming down. It's freezing.
Were you cold?
Yes, I was very cold. But that's kind of just, that's part of how it goes, right?
That's just the nature of the game.
Exactly.
Huh?
So, Syracuse just wasn't as crisp as they usually would be.
Sure.
They play a very flashy game. You see a lot of passes, behind the back, or they'll be moving around pretty fast, moving the ball around really quickly. Syracuse didn't really do a whole lot of that. There was a lot of surveying the field from Spallina at X, Tyler McCarthy straight away about 20 yards from cage, kind of just leading the offense, searching for openings. And Harvard's defense is one of the better ones in the country, and so is Princeton. So if you had those problems against Harvard, you could very easily run into the same issues against Princeton.
Sure.
Maybe you're a little bit more tested now. You're kind of used to the nature a little bit. It's not going to be as cold tomorrow down in Princeton, but it's definitely an opportunity for the Syracuse team to kind of shut the noise down. Gary Gate got asked about this at Media Ops yesterday about, hey, there's a narrative about your team playing bad in the weather, and he just kind of shook his head and was kind of upset about it. Wasn't happy that that's even a possible thing that's being said. So I think Syracuse kind of has to shut up the haters just a little bit.
Yeah, there was this crazy stat going around on the social medias. I'm sure you saw, like Syracuse in huge.
Oh, that was ridiculous.
Huge bold lettering. Syracuse has not won an outdoor game since 2003.
In February, and it's only 4 games.
And then in the captions, in February, in like the smallest text ever. And yeah, Syracuse has only played 4 games in February outside since 2003. So technically the Orange have not won in February outdoors since 2003. But just 4 losses. So
you ever see the? It reminded me of there's a Penn State football graphic.
I've seen this.
That says like there's a Penn State player's appeared in every Super Bowl
except for 4.
And then in the smallest text under it, it's like except for 5 since like 2000 or something.
Yeah, it's a very interesting stat. Kind of a weird narrative to push, but maybe if Syracuse goes 0-2 this weekend, especially if you drop against number 18 Penn outdoors, maybe you start to, push that outdoor narrative a little bit more. I think that'd be more fair because then all of a sudden you've lost 3 straight outdoors this season. But it was definitely. I just found myself looking at that like, guys, can we do a little bit better than this? You know what I mean? I think that was on. Like a pretty big.
I think it was the Lacrosse Network.
Yeah, it was like the Lacrosse Network that posted it. It was very interesting. You're listening to Newhouse After Noon. Drew Alba alongside Dan Papillo here until 4 p.m. Still plenty of time. We're talking Syracuse men's lacrosse, a big bounce back opportunity against number 7 Princeton tomorrow. Game time is set for 4. Should be a good one down in New Jersey, especially after last season. 1918, Syracuse took that in the quarterfinals to advance to Memorial Day weekend for the first time since 2013. So this is a big one for Syracuse to kind of get back on after a big loss last week to Harvard. A few Ivy League opponents here, Dan. You got a big one here against Princeton and then another one against Penn. 2 games, 3 days. That's pretty rare.
It's pretty rare, but I also want to give a shout out to the Ivy League. The Ivy League is becoming one of the tougher conferences
I think
in the entire country. I mean, the entire Ivy League won last week, including Harvard taking down Syracuse. This is the first season where Syracuse is playing 3 Ivy League opponents since 2005, I believe. So, Syracuse is challenging itself. We're very aware of that. We talked about it off the jump. The RPI trying to prove that, hey, maybe if we lose some games in there, it doesn't matter because we're playing the best teams in the country.
Right.
Syracuse is trying to prove that it's one of the best teams in the country. So playing these Ivy League schools 3 in a row is tough.
It is tough.
That's going to be very tough. Plus the fact that you mentioned 2 games in 3 days. That's a lot.
That's hard. And to be fair, Penn is doing the same thing. So Penn is also doing this ACC Ivy Challenge. So Penn is also playing on Friday and then plays Syracuse on Sunday. And the ideology behind that for head coach Gary Gate kind of replicates an ACC tournament weekend or an NCAA tournament
I was just about to say, guess what? You got to go win 2 games in 3 days if you want to win a national title.
Exactly. So it's something you got to do later in the season, and it kind of trains your teams now against good opponents, even against a Penn who wasn't ranked before last week. It's not going to be a walk in the park at all. And I was listening to Gary Gate talk about the 2 games in 3 days, and he said that he has not told his players to even think about Penn yet. Like, not an iota. And yes, the coaching staff has started a game plan for that, but the players do not know anything about that. It's all Princeton until the Princeton game ends, and then he does admit it'll be a cram sesh before the Sunday game against Penn, but it's one step at a time ideology. The mindset is, let's take care of business against Princeton, then we'll take care of business against Penn instead of looking forward to Sunday.
Well, you always have to kind of focus on what's in front of you, right? And you hear that a lot with athletes, and I know Penn is doing the same thing. I actually talked to a Penn athlete earlier today.
Oh, really?
And he
Which
said,
one?
I talked to Griffin Skane.
Okay.
And he said, I'm focused on UNC Friday. I haven't even thought about Syracuse yet for Sunday. So it's kind of interesting when you look at it that way. Obviously, when you're playing sports, it's a little different with lacrosse when you're only playing X amount of games. But think about it like when you were in high school and you were playing basketball, right? You would only think about the game that you had on Friday. You wouldn't think about maybe what was happening on Monday. You would be so laser focused on making sure you win that one game on Friday that I think it makes sense that that's the philosophy Gary Gate's trying to push. Focus on the rest of that problem, when you have to play 2 games in 3 days later down the line when you get there.
No, it makes sense. I agree with it. I just think that, as far as a game plan perspective, and lacrosse isn't like football where it's, as in depth, but there's still a lot you gotta work through as far as strategic, goals and focuses and, game plan execution. It's going to be a tough cram set for Syracuse on that Saturday to get ready for Penn on Sunday. But I do think that this is better than playing Penn Friday and then Princeton Sunday. I'd rather you have the full week of prep for the better team, which inherently is number 7 Princeton, and then kind of you got at least one day to figure out number 18 Penn. Than the
I was
other
just
way
about to
around.
say it's not that much different. Number 7 versus number 18. Obviously, there's a little bit of a gap there,
Yeah.
but it's not that much.
I think Princeton's not marginally. I think they're quite better than Penn.
I think it's pretty close, but yeah, I think Princeton definitely has the edge. But I think the biggest part of that,
Penn was unranked coming into the season.
I think the biggest
number 3.
I think the biggest part of that though is the fact that Princeton knows the Syracuse team. Obviously, some
Sure.
things change over the years. The leading scorer Carter McAsee is not there anymore for Princeton, but that's kind of the thing too. Princeton knows how to play Syracuse, which is what we were saying about Harvard as well.
Yeah.
That Harvard team obviously had a big chip on its shoulder, wanted to beat Syracuse because they beat them and eliminated them last year.
Right.
It's the same situation here.
And Syracuse beat Harvard after Harvard beat Syracuse.
Exactly.
So it was kind of, you see the flip-flop. Hey, and heck, if you're going to lose against Harvard, you might as well make it happen in the regular season and not in the the NCAA tournament.
Here's the thing too that I think a lot of people are kind of forgetting, right? People think that there was no way Syracuse was ever going to run the table.
No.
I don't think that
With
that was
this schedule?
a natural
No.
thing, which is why people were getting very critical after one loss. This is still a Syracuse team that's only lost one game, and that one game is to a team that's now number 4 in the country.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's too crazy that Syracuse lost one game. And if they lose another game, I don't think it's the end of the world either.
Yeah.
If you lose 3, maybe that's a bit of an issue.
Okay.
But 2 is kind of that, sweet
Sure.
spot.
Especially if it's against Princeton and Harvard. I mean,
Exactly.
these are really good teams. And I forget the exact stat, but I believe it was the last 5 Syracuse teams to make the championship all lost a game in the first 5 games of the season. So this is not... this is the norm, right? The norm is you lose a game in the first few games of the season, you figure it out.
I'm curious your thoughts on this. Do you think the perception would be a little different if Syracuse lost to Maryland and not Harvard?
Yeah, I do, because I think Maryland at that point was the number 1 team in the country, and Syracuse you play as quote the underdog there, even though you're at home.
I think it would have been worse if Syracuse lost to Maryland than Harvard.
No.
Because I think the perception then for Syracuse would have been the same thing that we kept hearing. Same old. The Syracuse team can't beat Maryland,
Yeah.
can't win the big game.
I could see
when you
that.
lose to a team like Harvard, it's kind of just a typical loss. It's your adversity rather.
Yeah, but you lost as the number 1 team in the nation.
I understand that, but I think that losing as the number 1 team isn't as big. The fact that you got over the mountaintop, because you kind of have a little bit of room for not excuses per se, but a lot
you
of
beat
people.
number 1
It's a little
Maryland.
bit of like a victory hangover sort of
Sure.
thing, where obviously the team won. They got the big win over Maryland, the number 1 team in the country, but to come out and lose the next game, it's a little unfortunate, obviously. But you were still at one point, the perception of your team changed. People saw Syracuse as, all right, this team is different. This team's actually serious this year. Whereas if they lost to Maryland again, I think the perception would just be, oh, it's the same Syracuse team that we know and love. They're not going to do anything. They'll lose in the semifinals again.
But I agree. I do think Princeton beating Maryland, it loses some of the allure and the credibility.
Oh, it definitely does,
towards
yeah.
the number 1 victory over Maryland. So at the time, sure, but now I think Syracuse has got to prove it against number 7 Princeton. This is a big one, right? You mentioned it. I think 2 losses isn't the end of the world either, but as far as kind of having that mojo that not only can you compete, but you are the best team in the country, it starts with taking care of business against a Princeton team that, by all accounts is right there with you, but you're a little more talented than. You got to go out and prove it.
This is 100% a silence the doubters kind of game.
Sure.
Obviously, the
Yeah.
perception of Syracuse, like we keep talking about, has completely flipped since that loss to Harvard. You were at the top. Maybe you're back down to the middle now.
Mm-hmm.
Syracuse has to get back to the spot where people say this team is a true national championship contender. And taking down Princeton, I think, pretty emphatically, would be pretty big for this team. I don't think they will. I think it'll be a close game.
It'll be close.
But if Syracuse can come out strong and really dominate possession and win this game decently by 5 or 6 goals, then we're back in that same level where people are saying, okay, this Syracuse team's legit. If they lose, then you're really falling down a bit of a slippery slope.
Agreed. John Mullen's going to be huge as far as that possession goes as well. Syracuse is taking on Princeton tomorrow at 4. It should be a good one. Number 6 and number 7 teams in the country, no pun intended, battling down in New Jersey. It's Drew Alba alongside Dan Papillo here on Newhouse After Noon. Still got 40 minutes with you, but we're going to take a quick break after. We're going to be talking some men's basketball. We're going to go to the court reluctantly, but there still is a season to finish out here. We'll talk about that and a lot more on Newhouse After Noon.
I'm sorry. That
Perfect. Thank
you. That first 5 minutes,
it was echoing.
I could not even hear myself think.
It was the exact same thing. I had to turn this down.
Just keep it all the way down.
Yeah, I will. But then we can't hear Jordan.
Wait, that makes sense.
Hey, Jordan. Can you talk really quick while I turn this down?
I can still hear him.
You can hear him right now?
It's a little faint, but
I can't hear him at all.
All right, so keep it there, and then as soon as we take it, just turn it down.
Yeah. Okay. There's a weird echo happening for some reason on the feedback. It's whenever I talk, I can hear myself, and
yeah, I
same thing
hear
with Dan.
myself a couple seconds behind, and it was messing with my head there.
Yeah. So we're gonna turn down the feedback once we get back here, if that's okay. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Sounds good. Yeah, we were battling the first 5 minutes there, but
I just kept stopping in the middle of what I was saying because I'm like, oh.
Well, I figured out halfway through, but then I couldn't tell if we were actually on the air because I didn't know if it was our volume or what. So yeah. Okay. Who will talk some men's basketball?
I mean, this is bottom dweller versus bottom dweller.
I know. It's a bottom dweller matchup. It's fun talking ball with you, though. I think we'll trail back to lacrosse at the end of the show, too.
Yeah, I mean, we can just talk about everything.
Yeah. Man, these boards are just a lot. Okay. For all you people listening here on the Twitch stream, hello. How's it going? This is not Milo Hoffman.
Making a spot start today.
Right, spot start. He's got similar features, the black hair,
I don't think I have similar features to Milo Hoffman.
You don't think at all? You're a similar height. I would say you have similar hair, similar weight, I'd say. You're right there.
There's no way that you're lying.
No, I'm not. You don't think so?
No.
I think nowadays, you and Milo are pretty similar.
I wish I had Milo's build.
Milo's 160.
I am not 160.
Are you over under 185?
You're not even close.
Over under 185.
Way over.
Way over? No way.
Yeah.
When was the last time you weighed yourself?
A few weeks ago.
Okay. You look good. I wouldn't guess that.
I won't say it out loud. I'll text it to you.
I said over under for a reason. I don't want to completely out you. I mean, I thought you were going to say under, so I'm 177. Damn! That's crazy. You do not look that. There's no shot. Everybody guess Dan's weight in the comments.
No, we're not doing that. Well, look what I just sent you. That's why you say that.
Okay. Because you have, you look great. There you go.
Thanks, Drew.
All bodies are awesome. Okay. How did that go from...
so sports, basketball.
Right. Milo Hoffman, everybody. These are... Okay. Newhouse After Noon. I've always what are these cameras here for?
That's usually for OTN stuff. Because I used the mixer over there. We're rolling along here on Newhouse After Noon. Dan Papillo here making a spot start alongside Drew Elba. Filling in for Milo Hoffman, but we still got 35 minutes to talk. We just talked a little bit of lacrosse. It's time to transition to everybody's favorite sport on the Hill right now, Syracuse men's basketball, who has a matchup on Saturday. A riveting affair, an absolute barn burner with Wake Forest down in Winston-Salem, Drew. And these two teams are in very similar spots, just not for the right reasons.
And Dan, you almost sounded sarcastic there.
What do you mean? No, I'm excited.
Syracuse, taking on Wake Forest. The Orange 12th in the ACC, Wake Forest 13th. So that's where both teams are at. The Orange 6-9 in the ACC, Wake Forest 5-10. So from a pen to paper standpoint, this should be a pretty tight one. I was just
about to say, despite everything that we're saying, we could sit here and make jokes all day long. Mm-hmm. This is actually a pretty big game, like you just mentioned. You talked about the ACC standings for seeding purposes, because Syracuse right now sits as the 12 seed, like you said. Wake Forest, the game behind them, as the 13 seed.
Right.
So obviously it matters, because no matter which place you end up in, you're going to have to face a different path in the ACC tournament. And for both of these teams, it's ACC championship or bust if they want to make it to March.
Right.
So as it currently stands, Syracuse as the 12 seed, if they were to win, I believe they'd have to play the 5 seed, which would be UNC right now.
That's tough.
Whereas if you are the 13 seed, and you win, you would play the 4 seed, which is NC State. Okay. And I think if you're Syracuse, you'd much rather play NC State than North Carolina. But we could play the hypothetical game all day long. But these two teams, obviously,
and I'm sure we will here on Newhouse After Noon for the next couple weeks.
We will, and we'll dive into this ACC tournament bracket in just a second. But I want to look at this game as a whole. Wake Forest is coming off of a loss to Boston College at the Conti Forum, and if you know, that's not a great place to lose a game.
Right.
Syracuse also did that a few weeks back.
I was about to say, not like Syracuse hasn't had their fair share of bad losses to Boston College.
So it's very fair to say that these two teams, like you said, are evenly matched, but it's not going to be a pretty basketball game nonetheless, Drew. What are you kind of looking for from the Orange in this one?
Yeah, I want Syracuse to get out early, and kind of what they did against SMU, they haven't done the last couple of games against UNC and Duke. They're getting out to these big holes that I feel like they're tough times kind of climbing out of. UNC was more in the second half, but Duke at the end of the first, you get down by 16. UNC, you were down double digits in the second half. Just keep it single digits, right? Keep it right around there. I would love Donnie Freeman to get more involved. He hasn't had a couple of great games and a couple of losses for Syracuse, so you could boil down a lot of things. Again, this is a, quote, big game, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's March 10th for Syracuse that matters, the ACC tournament. But seeding does matter a little bit.
So I was a little off on my seeding, so I kind of want to rephrase this. So as it currently stands...
And Dan, it's okay to be off.
I know. We all make mistakes, and I apologize. That's on me.
And Syracuse has made their fair share of mistakes, so it's rightfully so that we're allowed to as the media as well.
Milo Hoffman might not have made that mistake, but it's okay.
Hey, Dan, you're a fill-in. You're a
So as it currently
guy.
stands,
Called
Syracuse is the 12 seed and Wake Forest is the 13 seed. Those two would actually be playing each other right now in the first round.
It's like the first... Yes.
So... I guess it doesn't matter as much as I said, but the concept is still there, because the winner of the 12-13 game plays the 5 seed, which right now is UNC. So that was right.
And you could beat UNC right now.
You think so?
At this current...
I think last Saturday just proved that Syracuse can't do that.
Well, I don't think they're going to be... I mean, Syracuse was favored against UNC.
Well, because Caleb Wilson was hurt, and then they came out and they lost by double digits.
I don't think Caleb Wilson's going to be back. Regardless, yes, you lose by 13. Syracuse didn't play well. I think you can beat UNC. I don't think you're going to be favored to beat UNC at all, and don't get me wrong. But I don't hate a UNC matchup first round. And at the end of the day, right? Like we could.
Well, they'd have to beat Wake Forest first, as it currently stands.
Sure. Well, you can't beat Wake Forest.
And Syracuse and Wake Forest.
Really matter.
Wake Forest has given Syracuse fits in the ACC tournament in the past. Back in 2023, we can go back to they had a game-winning shot to eliminate the Orange.
But Dan, like, here's my point. Like, I really could care less if Syracuse can beat Wake Forest, because Syracuse, if you can't beat Wake Forest, you're no chance you're beating UNC, Duke, NC State. So what's even the point, right?
I understand that, but you also are kind of contradicting yourself from our last block, our lacrosse conversation. You have to take one game at a time here.
No, I just said Gary Gates said that. I don't think that's. I think Syracuse has got to hope and pray at this point in the season, right? Listen. Would you love some momentum going into the ACC tournament? Sure. You got Wake Forest, a top 25 Louisville team, and Pittsburgh. You could very easily win 2 of those 3 games.
Really?
Yeah, against Pitt and Wake Forest?
What has Syracuse shown you that they can beat Wake Forest right now?
Syracuse beat Pitt, and Wake Forest is. If you think Wake Forest is a way better team than Syracuse, then Dan, we're not watching the same game.
I wouldn't say that they're much better.
Technically below Syracuse,
but I would say that they have one. They're at home, which is obviously plays a factor. Down in Winston-Salem, but
right, because that Winston-Salem crowd is good.
It might be. You never know. It's a Saturday, a 5:45 start. I don't know why it's it's a CW game.
Virginia Tech beat Wake Forest by 19 less than a week ago.
But they have the ability, and there's one person why I say this.
Wake Forest beat Clemson.
They did.
Wow.
Juke Harris, their sophomore guard, is averaging nearly 22 points per game. You know what the highest scorer on Syracuse is averaging?
It's Donnie.
It's JJ averaging 12.
Okay, but that's qualified.
Correct.
Yeah, so I think Donnie's probably a little higher than that, but either way, yeah, you're right. I mean, this is a Syracuse team that hasn't had that guy for a lot of the season, and you're going to have to go up against a guy against Wake Forest. So, yeah, I mean, again, I feel like a hamster in a wheel when I talk about this team. I mean, you're going back at the same thing. Like, you got to do this better. You got to, rebound the ball better. I mean, everything's got to be better at the end of the day, right? You're a bottom 6 team in the ACC, which by all accounts is, like a good, not great conference in college basketball right now. You're nowhere close to where you need to be. And this season is chalked. It's chalked, right? I mean, we can...
No hope, Drew?
No, we can pull the bunny out of the hat all we want. We can, smoke and mirrors. It doesn't matter. Syracuse has to win the ACC, and that is the smallest sliver chance that you've ever seen. Sure, NC State did it a couple of years, and I almost feel bad for everyone that NC State did it because it almost feels like there's some sort of hope.
So you're saying there's a chance, huh, Drew?
There's a chance.
But let's focus more on the actual game. And we mentioned Donnie Freeman. I think we would be remiss to not talk about Donnie Freeman. Yeah. Because right now it feels like Syracuse basketball, the biggest issue, at least in my eyes, is that the game just feels so iso ball heavy. And when somebody like Donnie Freeman, who's been the leading scorer, isn't on, then Syracuse really has trouble scoring. You saw that against UNC. They've had a full week to fix it. I would hope that maybe they can turn the corner against Wake Forest.
Yeah, Donnie Freeman, absolutely horrendous the last couple of games. Just 9 points in both against the Tar Heels and against the Blue Devils of Duke. And for Donnie Freeman to have sub-double digits at the current state of this team, it's not going to fly. And his draft stock, by the way, Dan, where is that gone? I mean, is he even getting drafted at this point? What's the plan for Donnie Freeman?
Yeah, I still think he'll get drafted. I don't know if
Do you want to get drafted if you're Donnie, or would you rather get some NIL money, play an extra year, and try to boost that back up?
Well, that's a whole nother argument for another time. I feel like all these players are trying to stick around in college as long as possible. But yeah, if you're Donnie Freeman, I was having this conversation not too long ago where I've been looking at this Syracuse roster, and it kind of scares me to say that I don't think it's 100% a possibility. I think it's a possibility that none of the players on this roster are here next year.
Yeah, it's a possibility. Do you think it's happening?
I think it's very realistic. Obviously, there's some other factors that play into that. Yeah. Some of the guys like Luke Fennell, Bryce Zephyr, they'll probably stick around. But the guys that play, like your main 10, I wouldn't be surprised if Kyan Anthony decided to skip town.
That'd be a tough sell as far as the Carmelo Anthony basketball center and then you skip out of here.
I understand that, but at the end of the day, like if these players like Donnie Freeman and Kyan Anthony are serious about kind of going to the next level and being an NBA caliber player, it's kind of hard for you to stand out on a Syracuse roster that's really struggling. Now, obviously, so much is going to change next year. A new head coach, most likely, a new athletic director. Everything's going to be completely flipped on its head. But if you're Syracuse right now, you're like negotiation ability to tell a guy, hey, you need to come back here, be a part of the solution and not the problem, I feel like it's tough. It's a tough sell.
Yeah, it is a tough sell, especially with, like you mentioned, so much changeover that's going to happen this offseason. And Kyan Anthony wasn't brought in on whoever the new coach is going to be. He was brought in with Adrian Autry, and you can give a lot of slack, a lot of fault to what Adrian Autry has done to this program the last couple of years, and rightfully so. But one thing he can do pretty consistently is recruit talent. Can the talent mesh together? It hasn't proven so, but the grass isn't always greener on the other side is what I'm trying to get at here. And I don't think Adrian Autry is the best in-coach adjustment that I've ever seen. I don't think he gets the most, the squeezes the juice out of the orange, I guess you could say, as much as some guys, but he's a really, really good recruiter. He consistently gets top-end talent. And I don't know if, whoever they bring in, yes, the sell is still Syracuse basketball, but it's becoming harder and harder to justify, a 4 or 5 star guy or a transfer to go. We got the Miamis of the world trying to recruit me. The NIL money is just as good. The last few years, Miami hasn't been great, but still right on par with Syracuse. And I can go down, I can go to the beaches, it's Miami, or you can go up here. And, I love the 315 just as much as the next guy, but listen, this winter's been brutal. Syracuse basketball hasn't been good. The NIL money is right on par with, a lot of other teams in the ACC. It's becoming a tougher sell, where before it wasn't, because it's Jim Boeheim. It's that prestige. It's Syracuse basketball. But that name, Syracuse basketball, doesn't hold the same weight as it did a couple years ago.
It's not the same. And you mentioned the weather. There's people on Twitter that are calling for Puxatawny Phil's head recently, because he saw his shadow and
right.
There's 6 more weeks of winter. But that's a whole nother thing for another time. But you're right.
Down, Phil.
This Syracuse identity in such a results-driven world that we live in now, especially with NIL. There's so many guys that just want to, bounce around and get to the next spot, whoever's offering them the most money. Mm-hmm. Syracuse is not in the same level as some of these other schools. And a guy like Donnie Freeman, for example, who has shown enough flashes that he has the ability to dominate at the collegiate level, a team in the SEC could very easily say, hey, Donnie, come over here.
Yeah, no, for sure. And this is a Donnie Freeman-led Syracuse team that has not gone and done this year. So maybe, Donnie's moving around and going to the NBA or going to a different team and Kyan doing the same. Maybe that's not the worst case scenario, but, I'll leave this conversation at this. The worst thing that can happen for Syracuse basketball, speaking of Wake Forest, is turning into a Wake Forest type team, where you're just middling around in the depths of the ACC for the next decade, where nothing really happens, where you beat on bad teams in the non-con, but you lose 2/3 of games in the ACC, and that's what Syracuse has done the last couple of years. The second you lose that prestige level and you turn into the Boston Colleges of the world, the Wake Forest, and not the Louisvilles and the UNCs, Syracuse was on that platform with them not too long ago. That has to change, and I think that's one of the main reasons why you're going to see a big shift this offseason.
Well said, Drew. And unfortunately, Syracuse is closer to the Wake Forest and the Boston Colleges of the world than they are to the Dukes and the UNCs. But we still got plenty of time here on Q Sports Talk. About 23 minutes. Drew Albaugh and Dan Papillo here with you. Stick around. We'll be right back here on Newhouse After Noon.
Perfect. All right, this will be a quicker block.
That was good. That was a good combo.
That was good.
Do you like that Puxatawny Phil line?
Yeah,
that's been so funny.
Phil! In the chat, does anyone believe in Puxatawny Phil? Have you watched the movie Groundhog Day, by the way?
Yes, it's a great movie.
Great movie. God. Thank goodness you watched.
Yeah, actually, that's a good question for chat. Do you actually believe in Puxatawny Phil, or do you think it's just kind of a myth? I've never really believed it.
No, it's a myth. it's a myth, but it made a great movie. So.
I mean, it's always funny. You know, I always like watching the inductions or the ceremonies.
I could literally care less about what the freaking groundhog says, but it's okay.
It's fun. It's part of being fun, you know?
Yeah, no, it's a fun thing. I just don't think the groundhog knows left from right. That's okay.
You think the groundhog just shows up, looks around, and says, all right, I'm done?
Yes, I do. And shout out Puxatawny, Pennsylvania, right?
Puxatawny, yeah.
Yeah. Because they've made a living off of it. So
They have. People go all the time. It's literally in the middle of nowhere.
capitalism, baby.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's in western Pennsylvania.
I was just, talking, Phil and its shadow the last couple minutes. Before I die, I do want to go there and see the groundhog come out.
You got to get there super early because the sun rises at like 5 in the morning.
No, I want to go though. I do because
Drew,
the movie is so integral to my childhood. I would watch that movie pretty much every Groundhog's Day.
Really?
Yeah, Bill Murray. Oh goodness. Do you how well do you know the movie, Dad?
I know it decently. I haven't seen it in a while, but
there's a few good lines.
Oh, of course.
It's a doozy when he steps in the big puddle every time, or the alarm clock. That's always the same. Yeah.
Drew, I would love to go to Puxatawny with you.
Let's do it.
We'll plan the trip at some point.
Let's make a pact to go, like our friends Max Gifford and Hudson Ridley, who drove to Bloomington, Indiana from Syracuse yesterday.
In one night. They did it in one trip. They didn't even stay there.
Yeah, they drove overnight, right?
Yeah.
They went to the game and did their festivities.
Just because they made a pact as freshmen to go see a Northwestern Indiana game.
Which, by the way, Northwestern pretty much ended Indiana's at-large chances.
Yeah, it was a crazy game.
Yeah. So, yeah, if we drive, I wonder how far.
It's about a 4-hour drive.
Okay. All right.
See what day Groundhog's Day falls on next year. Maybe we can make it work.
4-hour drive. Yeesh. It's not terrible, though.
What's that?
It's not terrible.
Gobbler's Knob.
God, that does sound familiar. Now you mention it. Have you ever gone?
Yeah, I mean that's a sick name.
No, I do want to go because I think it would be kind of cool. You could go. It'd be mostly for the movie for me. I really do like
just
that
to say
movie.
you did it, obviously.
Yeah, and I could go to the breakfast spot that you'd always go to, and I'd go to the ravine where he drove his car off and tested his luck. I just would wake up the next day. Syracuse is kind of like the Groundhog's Day on the court.
I mean, I think Syracuse, the city, is kind of like Groundhog's Day. You wake up, it's gray out.
Oh, come on.
Some snow comes down.
Come on. I will say, this winter's been brutal. Okay, I've lost the stream in my ears. Hopefully everything's fine.
We should be chilling. Yeah, we got you.
Yeah.
What are we ripping here? Women's?
Yeah, quick women's. I'm going to get out at 350.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Maybe I'm going to take before if we need to.
It's all you.
Okay. Welcome back into Newhouse After Noon. Drew Alba alongside Dan Papillo. Here with you until 4 p.m. Just about 18 minutes left. I was talking to Mile about next stars or whatever the line is today. It always kind of flatters me just a tick,
Tomorrow's stars today.
Right. Yeah. It's I think it's giving us.
You don't have the confidence in yourself to say that you're a star?
No, not yet. I'm an emerging. An asteroid or something.
I'm just pushing your buttons.
All right, Syracuse women's basketball, they are stars compared to the men's team, at least this year. The Orange, 5th in the ACC, 21-6, with a big game against a really good Notre Dame team tonight at 7. The Fighting Irish sit at 18-9. call us Lewis and Clark over here, the way we're just going around Syracuse sports. We started with men's lacrosse. We go over to basketball now. We're flipping it to the women's side. And if you want to go as far as drama in the next month or so, this team on the Hill is going to top all of the rest. Syracuse right now is a projected 9 seed, according to ESPN. Dan, Syracuse versus Notre Dame, what do you got?
This is an interesting matchup for me because obviously Syracuse basketball or women's basketball has been a really big spot this season. It's been a really big turnaround for the program, something that Syracuse fans, feels very similar to that 2024 team, I feel like, going down that alley a little bit.
DeAsia Fair was like a one.
I understand that, but here's where I'm getting at, right? Because Notre Dame has always been kind of a benchmark for this team with Hannah Hidalgo and company.
Sure.
They blew them out last year. It's a big opportunity when you play Notre Dame, especially over in South Bend. I think for Syracuse, this is very much a game where fans can kind of see this team and say, oh, Notre Dame, that's usually a loss, right? It's kind of an opportunity for Syracuse to say, all right, this is our opportunity to play a team that's given us troubles in the past and show that we're not at the same level as those other teams.
Yeah, and you mentioned kind of the lack of parity in the last 3 seasons, right? So Syracuse makes the NCAA tournament 2 years ago with DeAsia Fair, like you mentioned it. In that season, Syracuse knocks off Notre Dame 79-65 in the ACC. Then the following year, last season, with the Georgia Woolley-led team that went nowhere, not even in the ACC tournament, lost week or in round number 1, I believe. Syracuse lost to Notre Dame by 31. And now, here you go. Is Syracuse like the team 2 years ago? Can Syracuse get it done? I do think Notre Dame's a good benchmark, Dan. But I think 2 years ago, it was DeAsia Fair kind of leading the way. It doesn't feel like there's one player leading the way for Syracuse. It feels like it's kind of a 3-headed monster with Uche Izoje, the star-studded freshman, come over from Japan. Freshman, but she's 21 years old. You got Dominique Darius and Layla Filia. And I think those 3 players for the Orange, you can kind of rely on all 3. And I honestly think it's more sustainable of a brand of basketball than compared to the DeAsia Fair do-it-all type of offense.
Definitely. And you're facing a team in Notre Dame that kind of follows that similar DeAsia Fair route with Hannah Hidalgo averaging nearly 25 points per game.
Right.
She's an absolute stud. So it's an opportunity for Syracuse to kind of show that things have changed a little bit. And I think
they've changed.
With Izoje, Filia, and Darius really coming into their own, I think that's a testament to Coach Jack and kind of the philosophy that this team has.
I love Coach Felicia Jack. I think she's so good.
The philosophy of playing team basketball is something that's almost lost these days. We talked about it in men's. We were just talking about it with Wake Forest. Now they have one player. Or how Syracuse has relied on one player this season. Having the ability to move the ball around and having 5 players on the floor and 4 and 5 can beat you, that's huge. That's something that keeps defenses on their toes. If a defense from another team is scouting you and can focus on one person, like say DeAsia Fair back in the day or Georgia Woolley last year, then you're really going to struggle. But when you have players like Izoje averaging 15 a game, Filia with 14, Darius with 13, that keeps defenses on its toes, and that's what I think makes Syracuse dangerous this year.
Right, and despite a loss to NC State, it was 13 points, sure, but even then, Izoje drops 26 points. She's been an absolute stud for Syracuse. But the previous game against Clemson, she drops just north of 10. So you see Syracuse getting it done offensively in multiple different facets. Notre Dame, big game tonight. Talk about consequences. Projected 9 seed. That you're playing with fire, as they say. You're right on the edge. Syracuse not a bubble team according to ESPN, but you lose to Notre Dame, you put some pressure on a Boston College game that isn't going to be close necessarily. But let's say the Syracuse loses tonight, you beat Boston College, and then something goes awry in the ACC tournament and you lose game number 1. I don't think you're a locked-in at-large team at that point. So this is a big one for Syracuse to at least lose close, I think, to Notre Dame.
Yeah, for sure. And I think right now, if you look at the ACC standings, obviously the tournament plays a big factor in terms of seeding once again. It's pretty, Syracuse right now is fighting for a first-round bye, which would be huge for this team. The top 4 teams in the ACC get a bye. Syracuse is at 5th right now, but tied with NC State for that 4th spot. So Syracuse could hypothetically sneak into that spot. But also, one game behind them in 9th place is Notre Dame. So there's a lot of parity there, and it could very easily flip-flop. So I think it's a big game for Syracuse to come out, and obviously you want to win it. Of course, you want to win every game, but it's important for seeding, obviously, because the less games that you play in the ACC tournament, the less likely you are to have one of those slip-ups like you mentioned. You don't want to give the committee a reason to say that this Syracuse team shouldn't be where it is, because you've proved that you deserve to be in the NCAA tournament. You want to make sure to have a good showing in the ACC tournament in March.
You just need to get a couple wins on your belt in that ACC tournament. Ideally, you just beat Notre Dame, and at that point, I think your at-large bid is pretty much locked in because you're not going to lose to Boston College. I mean, this is an Eagles team that is historically bad at this point. Bottom of the ACC, 1-16 in conference, 5-25 overall. So that's not going to be a loss. Granted, Boston College did beat SMU, which is kind of funny.
I was going to say you can't give any team any slack. At the end of the day, anyone can beat anyone.
Yeah, anyone can beat anyone. But if anyone was going to take down Syracuse, Boston College would probably be at the bottom of that list. But anything could happen. So Dan, really quick, Syracuse, you got a win over Notre Dame. I think Orange take it close.
I think so too. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think Hannah Hidalgo is going to go off. But like I said, the team basketball that Syracuse plays can hopefully push them over the edge. It's going to be a close one for sure. Definitely worth a watch.
Totally agree. 10 minutes left for you here on Newhouse After Noon. I'm Geralba alongside Dan Papillo. Still, a little bit more to talk about, though. I know you're trying to get rid of us, but we still got 10 more minutes with you. We're going to take a quick break, but afterwards, we're going to wrap things up, talk a little bit of Syracuse men's lacrosse, a big game against Princeton, tie a bow on the show, as they say. It's Newhouse After Noon, right after this break.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right, one more time.
One more time. No chatters, but that's all right.
Ah, man.
Appreciate you sticking around, all 5 viewers.
Heck yeah. We've had some chatters in the past, Dan, so I don't know if it's you or Milo.
I don't know. Back when I would be on the show last year with Jacob, obviously it's a very polarizing figure on Twitter. We would get a lot of chatters.
Really? That's fine. For a class, package class, but for people that don't know, you got to go out into the community and find a story to do it on. So we went to a library, Milo and I, and like the SID of libraries, but it's not the sports information director, obviously, but like it's the library
The LID,
guy.
the library information director?
Right, who set us up with this interview. He recognized us from Newhouse After Noon.
Really?
Isn't that crazy?
That's really
cool. He was like, Newhouse After Noon. I was listening to you guys. I was like, wow, it put things. It was my biggest
And you call yourself not a star.
I know, geez, that was maybe the closest I've ever felt to a celebrity, and it was with the LID of
I had a similar thing happen, actually. I stopped at Spectrum store the other day, and somebody said, "Oh, I recognize you from WAER, your name."
No way.
I guess the morning cast, yeah.
That's awesome. It's always crazy to me how people are definitely listening to the morning cast and all that, and yeah, I don't know.
I always say you never know who's keeping tabs on you. I always say this whenever I go home and I see people that I went to high school with, because I have people that I went to high school with that I'll see out, maybe at the store or something like that, and they'll come up to me and they'll say, "Oh, hey, how are you?" And then they'll go into, "Oh, so I saw that you called the Syracuse-Harvard game the other day. That's pretty cool."
That's awesome.
And I'm like, how do you know that?
Yeah, that's super cool.
Meanwhile, I haven't thought about you in months. You're busy studying finance, and you're probably in a frat at South Carolina or something.
And probably having just as much fun. Goodness. I was about to say something, but I lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah, we kind of missed the Syracuse women's lacrosse, though. We could talk about that for 1 minute. Yeah, that was kind of a good game.
Do we have a hard out, Jordan?
It's just double zeros, right?
Okay, cool. 59?
Okay,
gotcha.
Cool. Perfect.
It's not like last year we had to be out by like 57-20 or whatever.
News afternoons. We're trying to pull back the curtain a little bit, make Newhouse Afternoon fun again.
Believe me, it was plenty of fun last year. Jacob texted me and said, should I call in? And I was like, Jordan would probably hang up the phone.
Yeah, we got 4 minutes left in the show, so.
It's funny. I'm wearing a brown shirt, but on the stream, my shirt almost looks green.
Interesting.
It's just
like a dark forest green almost. Yeah.
It's just the color of probably the camera.
Yeah. Man, I really want not sunshine, like warmth. I want warmth.
Dude,
I want to walk outside in shorts.
I'm so close. I'm just dreaming of Florida. I'm so close.
Oh my God, yeah. Barcelona is gonna be awesome. Yeah. You're gonna have fun. Gonna go to Disneyland?
Nah, spring training.
Oh yes, of course. That's so awesome.
It's a bucket list trip, so I'm really looking forward to it.
I went to spring training when I was 7, and it was the top 5 trip of my life.
You remember it that well?
It was awesome. I literally was like a little kid, and like everyone just like loves little kids. So like I would just run around and get like signatures from like a random minor league players.
Yeah, see, if I do that, it's a little weird.
Right. But you like could appreciate more at that, now.
I'll probably film some content.
Yeah.
Wrapping up shop here on Newhouse Afternoon. Dan Papillo alongside Drew Alba. We got 5 more minutes with you up until 4 o'clock. We want to, we've been all around. We bounced over to men's lacrosse. We talked men's basketball. Then we were at women's basketball. It's only right that we bring it full circle and we talk a little bit of women's lacrosse.
Cherry on top.
A big win for the Orange. The first win in the Reggie Thorpe era the other day, taking down Loyola Maryland 15-7.
Yeah, I was, had the pleasure to, jump on the call, on the TV call and watch Syracuse for the first time this season.
Way to flex, buddy. We got it.
Yeah, it's kind of whatever. But the big thing that I realized in that one was the sentiment going into it was this team can't score and this team can't finish. And heck, even head coach Thorpe was mentioning how they're getting good looks, just not putting it in the places and finding corners. And now there's a difference in this, across men's and women's lacrosse. There's a difference between shooting on goal and shooting for the corners, right? You can kind of just aim for the goal, but when you're consciously making an effort to seek out those corners, it completely changes, your shots to goal percentage. And that's what really happened against Loyola. I thought Syracuse was much more intentional about finding those corners, and Syracuse, really ran away with it. Went 7-1 in that third quarter and never looked back.
A much needed win, of course, but you also got to realize, too, you got to cut this team some slack. They played the number 1, number 2, and number 3 teams in the nation, and people were talking about, this team can't score, this team sucks.
True, that's a good point.
They came out against number 13 Loyola and proved,
brutal
hey,
start.
we're still up there. We're still a decent program.
They're a good team.
No, absolutely. And Syracuse really spread the wealth, which was something important. 9 different goal scorers, like you mentioned. And I think, you have a point with what you were saying of, Loyola was shooting for the corners. But at the end of the day, it's not about that, I don't think. And I think Daniela Gayette, she only had to make 2 saves. But, still, it's the concept of when you're in net, you just got to make sure that you're making the life not easy for the other team. Like Loyola was struggling just to find even some shooting space. So I think overall it was a big win for the Orange to prove, hey, let's get the monkey off our back. Reggie Thorpe gets his first win, and we can move on with the season.
All right, Dan, really quickly before we wrap everything up, can we make our predictions across the sports?
Yes, that's a good idea.
What we got here. So Syracuse women's lacrosse, it's an easy one next time up. I'm trying to find it. I think they're
at Louisville on Saturday.
Louisville Saturday. Syracuse is going to win that one. I think you're going to improve to 2-3 on the season.
Yes, I
you
like
agree
that.
there?
100%.
Okay. Switching to the men's side. This is maybe the biggest game this weekend. This is a tight one. I think Syracuse takes down number 7 Princeton close. It's reminiscent of last year's scoreline, 17-15. I think the Orange take it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a 1-goal game in this big, 6-7 matchup. It's definitely a big one for both sides. I think Syracuse will get it done.
Okay, and then you got the mobile team, men's basketball, that is. against Wake Forest. How much does it really matter? I don't know, but I think Syracuse gets a win there too. I think the Orange 3-0 outside of the women's basketball game that happens tonight. I think Syracuse gets that done as well, a close 5-point win.
I think we're going to have to disagree here, Drew. I'm going to go against you on this one. I think Wake Forest, just because they're at home, it's going to be a close game. We'll say that gives them an edge. They'll win by like 2 or 3 points.
And then already took Syracuse over Notre Dame tonight, so I got the Orange sweeping the table. Call me a homer.
You're kind of going off of, off the track from last weekend. Everybody lost last week.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you're trying to bring some joy back into the show, which I like.
There we go.
On the other hand, I'm being a little bit more realistic, and that's all right. Well, that's going to do it here for us here on Newhouse Afternoon. Thank you so much for listening. Drew Alba, I'm Dan Papillo saying thank you once again, and we're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. Coming up, more coverage here on Q Sports Talk.